It's a pleasure to be here today to introduce this panel. I think the most important panel of the conference, because where are we going to be in 20 years' time without talent? And how am I going to feed my family without placing that talent? I've worked in the financial markets recruitment area for the last 20 years with some of the leading investment banks, asset managers, exchanges, fintechs, and electronic trading platforms. It's given me what I think is a great insight into how we retain talent. And some of the themes I'd like to discuss are flexibility, purpose, recognition and reward, mentoring, learning and development, and culture. I'm going to be brief, otherwise Tim's going to rugby tackle me. But I remember in January 2020, meeting a client, a major electronic trading dark pool for equities, and the head of HR said to me, the key theme for this year is going to be to promote flexible working. We're going to allow front office employees to work from home, to work outside the office, and flexible hours. I remember leaving the meeting laughing to myself, thinking there's no way that's going to happen. 2 months later, as we all know, it happened. And I think that young talent coming into the market now and those who started pre-COVID and during COVID expect flexibility in terms of work from home options, in terms of times they're working, and also flexibility in terms of what they're working on, which brings me on to the next point, purpose. I think it's crucial that young talent coming into the markets can see the bigger picture and understand how their work impacts the company and the transaction or the business area they're working in. As without that, they have no purpose and can seem very siloed. Recognition and reward. Reward has always been the key factor in financial markets. There's not many people come into financial markets not expecting the best salaries and bonuses out there. But aside from, that's always going to be the case, but aside from reward, I think recognition is becoming a key factor. Being recognized, whether that's by senior management, colleagues, for the work you're doing, the impact you're having, is crucially important to motivate and retain talent. Mentoring, learning and development. When I joined Deutsche Bank in 2001 in static data operations, I felt like probably hitting my head against a brick wall. It was very boring. And I would probably love to have a mentor that maybe had been in my shoes or had a similar experience and could guide me through the milestones and where I could possibly guide my career to. Learning and development is crucial in retaining talent in today's markets. Lastly, I'd like to speak about culture. I think culture encompasses all those areas I've mentioned, but more importantly, young people today are looking to work in an inclusive and diverse environment where their voices are heard, their ideas are heard, and it doesn't matter how senior you are, you're still an important part of the organization. I'm really looking forward to hearing the panel discuss this topic, and I hope I've been under 5 minutes, Tim.
Thank you very much indeed, Richard. And yes, you have beaten the 5 minutes, so congratulations on that. So thank you for giving us a few thoughts to start this off. So first of all, let me introduce myself formally. I'm Tim Skeet. I work at Bank of China. I'm the UK Regional Chair of ICMA. And I have asked each and every one of the panelists to briefly tell us how long they have been in the business. So I will start with myself. This is my 17th AGM. And I have been in the business 43 years. And I was trying to work out what that means. longer than that lot on my left altogether. I don't know whether that makes me seasoned, unseasoned, or something different, maybe well over the hill. But anyway, delighted to be here on a topic close to my heart, because talent retention is crucial. I will start with one anecdote. I lecture at a couple of universities in the UK, and each year I ask them where you want to work once you have escaped academia. And over the years, I have seen the number of people saying they want to work in financial services go up and down. And during the financial crisis, I've been doing this for some time, the numbers went dramatically down, no surprise. Now they're back up. And every time I speak to a cohort, mainly studying economics and business, the hands go up to tell me that they would love a job in financial services. So that's an interesting starter here. And we are going to debate 3 questions. And each of these questions, I'm going to first of all put to you, the audience, for a show of hands. So please don't fall asleep at the back. Let's just see a hand go up when I ask the question. And since there are 3 questions, and they don't all come at once, that means stay awake to the end. Now, I am also then going to take each question and first ask one of the more juniors, or at least the future leaders, and one of the more senior, or at least one of the the seasoned professionals, for their opinion, and I hope we get a conversation going until our allotted time is finished. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, start with the first question, and I'm going to ask for a show of hands. And that question is, does finance have a generational hiring and retention problem? Now, hands up if you think it does have a problem. Okay, those who think it does not have a problem. Now, I would say that the audience believes there is a problem, so that's a good place to start off. So I'm going to, I think, start with one of my future leaders. Alex, I'm going to start with you. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
So maybe first of all,
introduce yourself first.
Exactly. Alex Malitsky. I work at TD Securities. I'm also the chairman of the ICMA Future Leaders. I've been in the industry for, we tried to work it out, 9 or 10 years. Not 43, but that puts me on this side of the panel, I suppose. I personally don't think that, as you said, we have a problem with the number of people who want to get into the industry. If I look at the number of people reaching out to me, young professionals, either on LinkedIn, in the street, or just on Bloomberg, trying to connect and trying to get into certain positions, into certain roles, into certain firms, it doesn't seem to necessarily align with what I hear more broadly from the industry with regards to we don't have enough people, we can't hire enough kind of motivated people, they're not the right applicants who want to put in the hours. And I personally think that this industry actually strongly appeals to a number of individuals who might not necessarily know what the industry has to offer. If you think about the last few years, it's not simply going into banking, working in front or back office. You could be going into the industry working in cybersecurity, AI, data. You could be becoming a bit of a consultant. And I think one thing that Richard said is, that I strongly agree with, is the generation that is coming into this industry, they really want to be heard. They want to have a voice and they want to have an impact. And I think one of the worst things that I see is young professionals who come from top universities going into this industry thinking they're going to make a change within the first 2-3 years of their career. And what they've experienced is more often than not that the first 2 or 3 years of their career, they don't get to have a voice at all sometimes.
Right, let me stop you there. I mean, you've got a voice because you're here. Mm-hmm. So you got a chance to broadcast your message. But I'm going to ask Sébastien, because I wanted to actually say, he's our chairman, so I have to be polite. But
good.
What's your view on this?
Well,
you're not the chairman, are you?
I'm not the chairman, certainly.
Do you have a voice?
I do have a voice.
Okay, just checking, okay.
So, well, basically, Sébastien and Campenhoudt, working for Euroclear and in the financial industry for 14 years. So, starting to be seasoned soon. I always wanted to work in the financial industry, and Euroclear managed to retain me for 14 years. So maybe I thought this question, if there is a problem, was not targeted to me. So I went to my HR department of Euroclear, and I asked them what they thought if there was a problem. What they told me is that there are two different things. You have hiring and you have retention. In hiring, we don't have any problem today. And that has been proven because Euroclear in the last 4 years, we moved from 3,600 employees to more than 5,000 today. So we do find the young people to work for Euroclear and I suppose for the financial industry. And that is why. It's because career development and compensation are still the two main factors that they consider when taking a job. And well, we all know that financial services pay above average, so we do have good arguments to attract them. The issue comes with the retention. And retention is not only for the financial industry, but for everything. And why? Because there is a complete shift that has started with the millennials and with the Generation Z. What we see is that for these two generations, the flexibility, and that has been mentioned by Richard, becomes the most important factor to stay in a job. While for the older generation, or more seasoned generation, compensation remains the main factor. Then, they showed me a very interesting study that was done by McKinsey. And this one was focusing on the difference between the generations, and specifically on the Generation Z. And what it showed is that for staying in a job, so this generation which is 18 to 24 years old today, what they consider as the most important reasons to stay are, and I will list them, flexibility, I mentioned it before, career development, third one is meaningful work, and purpose was mentioned before, then fourth is supportive and reliable colleagues, fifth, safe workplace environment, and then last, sixth reason is compensation. So what was the first reason to take a job becomes the last one to keep it. And this is where I find it very interesting, and mostly if I link on the third reason, so the meaningful work and having a purpose. So they need to have a purpose in what they do. And our financial industry, all our institutions, has started to work on green finance, sustainable, green bonds, sustainable finance, culture, community work, and all these things. To do that to make a greener place, a greener planet, a better place, or improve the communities for the external world. Well, once this Generation Z will grow up, if they keep these reasons to stay in a job, well, we will not have to do that only to make the better place.
So the secret is we don't pay people, we just make them feel meaningful.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay. All right.
And that's what
so we don't really need to pay you, do we?
You need to be paid.
Whoever his boss is, give them a pay cut, but just make him feel more meaningful.
Well, the thing is, you don't need to overpay them to justify a work, because today, potentially, some people say that finance is overpaying, because indeed we are paying above the average. Yeah. What it says is that basically, if you want to keep your motivation, your talents motivated, you need to give them a flexible work, and to work on something that is meaningful to them.
Got it. Let me switch to one of the seasoned professionals, and Jean-Luc, I think you...
I will introduce myself, maybe.
How many years is it now?
34 years. I'm Jean-Luc Lamarque. I'm Global Co-Head of Primary for Crédit Agricole CIB, and I'm Deputy Chair of ICMA, Chair for France, and also recently appointed Chair of Sierra. I stop here for the ICMA, but ready to take your questions, sir.
Well, we're dealing with the first question. How do you respond to Sebastian's point? Are you going to pay all your juniors less, but make them feel more...
Yeah, probably not, but I think that it's a very good point. I think if you want to keep people, you want to give them perspective. And perspective is giving them the opportunity to do something different at some point in their career. I think people are expecting to change much more than when we started our career, okay? I've been doing various things, but still working on capital markets. Now people want to be able to switch from doing M&A to do digitalization transformation, for example, or to work in the ESG team. So that's very important to give them the flexibility and to give them that perspective. That it's not because they start as a swap trader, as I did, that you are going to stay as a swap trader for the last 15 years. And it's not viewed as a failure to change after 3 years and to do something completely different. That is very clear. And the second thing, which is very important and was clearly completely not in the game 10 years ago, is ESG. I did participate to the recruitment of the graduate program at Crédit Agricole 18 months ago. I interviewed a lot of people because I wanted to do it. All of them, with no exception, spoke about what is ESG a policy of Crédit Agricole, what is we are viewed as a green bank and that ESG is very important. And that was a very important point for all of them, which was clearly not existing 10 or 15 years ago. So we have to take that into account in our recruitment. We have to take that into account in the retention as well. It's going to be very important. And obviously something like the future leader is something which is very important as well, because you give them exposure, you give them the opportunity to meet with their peers in some kind of format, and also to speak with seasoned people like me in some
How do you
forums.
define seasoned?
It's still vague, but we'll get back to that later on. It's a short panel.
But you are seasoned.
Definitely.
Good. And do you have problems hiring, or is it?
No.
Do you have problems retaining?
We have problem retaining. Some people are leaving to do completely something else, much more than it was the case 10 years ago.
Right.
Again.
So that is the issue.
But the market has turned a little bit and is more bullish at the moment. So it seems that we have more people willing to come.
Okay,
and
so
probably more people at the moment willing to stay as well. It's kind of, we reach a point of balance to me at the moment.
okay, so that leads, I think, into our second question. Again, I'm going to ask for a show of hands on this one. So let me read the question. Do management styles need to change? Very much to your point, I think, Sébastien. And adapt to the changing staff values. So, do management styles need to change and adapt to changing staff values? Those who think it does, hands up, please. Well, that's overwhelming. Anyone doesn't think it needs to change? Not a single vote. Now, that's a pretty easy answer, isn't it? All right, so we need to change. That's a clear message. Where do I start? Maybe I should ask Fabianna.
Sure.
Let me start with you on that one. How are you changing?
To introduce myself, I'm Fabianna del Canto, and I co-head the Capital Markets Department for EMEA at MUFG. I've been in the industry for 22 years, so less seasoned, but seasoned. And I do think management styles need to change. I push myself and push managers on our team to really consider the breadth of opportunities that younger people are asking for, to the point that various people have made. It's not about necessarily coming in, doing the job well, and being acknowledged for that. It's about coming in, doing the job well, and being offered different opportunities. So within our own team, we've actually inverted a bit the structure. Typically and traditionally, I think you would join capital markets, you would join a team, you would have a sector specialization. We've actually established a soft pool to enable juniors, and juniors being analysts and associates, over longer term projects or maybe 6-month time horizons, to go to a pool manager and say, actually, based on what I'm seeing on the floor, I'd like to have exposure to a different team. And the pool manager figures out how to enable that exposure, whether it's on a project basis, when there's holidays happening, or even on longer term rotations. It does mean that some of the progression in terms of a specific skill set may not be as accelerated, but it's definitely contributed to a lot of the good retention of the younger team, and they've all really been happy with it. And actually, when I look at it over a 1 to 2 year progression, everyone's better for it. So.
Now, does that in any way impact on pay, or is that you still paying people what you need to pay them?
No, we still pay people what we need to pay them to get them in the door. I think it's a really competitive market. I mean, you're saying that it's maybe a little bit less competitive, but in general, the competition for talent is high. So we pay to get them in the door, but to retain them, we have to offer them exposure to different opportunities, and then also offer them opportunities to progress at what I think is a much more accelerated pace than maybe we had when we came in.
Good. So, Katia, then I'm going to turn to you. Do you agree with that? Is that your experience?
Generally, yes. My name is Katsiaryna Souvanjiev. I work at Raiffeisen Bank International, and I'm the head of ESG funding and innovation team. So yes, I have the opportunity to work in ESG. as it was said. That's becoming one of the features when people want to be employed. From a lot of things that have been said, I think, all of them are important somehow, but what I would maybe highlight a little bit more, like the flexibility. Yes, I worked 9 years, not much, not little maybe. I was working full-time before COVID happened, had the home office, and now it's a mixture of both worlds.
So how many days are you back in the office?
I think one of my team members is in the team.
Oh, okay, don't answer that question.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. She's pleaded the Fifth Amendment in
Yes,
American
thank you
language.
very much. What I find challenging is when we have very young people coming, usually for the entry positions, and they straight away say, I want a lot of flexibility, as in, I don't want to come to the office. I think it's not bad, but I can see how this would be challenging for them to be part of the team when you don't know anyone, You're not yet very much involved, you didn't do the networking, you don't know the people.
So how do you deal with that?
I think it's not the fit. And, surprisingly, they also understand it's not a fit. Because I have been approaching people, and they would be like, no, I don't think this would work. And then I was like, really? Like,
okay.
Why? This is an entry position. I would be happy if somebody would ask me, like, years ago. Yeah, because I think you would want me to be in the office. And I'm kind of not.
So
really
are you
interested
having
in
a
that.
hiring problem?
No, there's still a lot of people out there, but you can generally see how this changes, the priorities.
Right.
But what is even maybe more prevalent, they want to have the voice, absolutely. So nobody is interested anymore to come in and just do a lot of the side work until they finally notice me, and then maybe in 3 years I can ask for promotion. This is not the case anymore. People are coming in and they want to plan. They want to know when things will be happening, how they will be happening, and of course what they need to do for those things to happen. Like when I started 9 years ago, I was told, oh, don't you worry. The banking industry, think about it as a train. You get in, and there is a rail, you know which station you're gonna get to. Eventually, if things go well, you really need to mess up to get kicked out of the train, so it's going to be fine. You will reach your station.
So you haven't messed up, basically?
Huh? What?
You have not yet messed up?
No, I
Good.
think it has been quite good so far. But essentially, that was the story.
Yep.
You get in, you will be taken care of, it's going to be good. And I think now, if we think of this train kind of metaphor, it's becoming more a roller coaster, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And they're not just interested in, there are the stops. I'll be in 3 years whatsoever professional, in 5 years maybe a senior, and then we will see, and whatsoever. They want to know how. They want to know what they are doing in half a year, in 2 years. What are the opportunities? And essentially, when those both things are present, so a little bit of flexibility, the voice is there, and you have a plan of them, how to develop them.
Are you having trouble with retention?
No, I don't think so.
Not really.
It's going well.
Ironically,
Going well.
Ironically, I find that everyone wants to just know that the flexibility is there, but when I look at the office, it's really the younger people that are in 5 days a week, which is the irony, because either the camaraderie or just the working environment. But just to have that flexibility in mind that you were able.
Yeah, but is that because you've filtered out the people who say, I want the flexibility, I'm not prepared to make the compromises, you suggest, or these are people actually want to work?
I've asked, and a lot of them, it's just the very pragmatic approach of, they're flat, they have roommates and flat share, and they prefer to come in the office, and it's a nicer environment. So they
don't like their flatmates.
Ironically, they're the ones that are demanding the flexibility. So it's just the ability to have that should you need it.
I also think on that point on flexibility, it's very often young people who start in this industry are actually extremely motivated to learn and to become better, and they want to come into the office, they want to deliver. What they don't like, especially this generation now, is being told, no, you have to be 5 days in the office. Right. Why? Just because.
Yes.
Yep.
This is where they then become, but I'm already here 5 days a week anyways, don't tell me.
You're doing 5 days a week, you won't tell us how many days you do. Sebastian, how many days do you do?
2 or 3.
2 or 3?
I like that. I'll stick to that.
You stick that, 2 or
Yes.
3, 2 or 3?
Yes, I think it's good.
What are you doing, Jean-Luc?
5.
5?
4.
4?
5 to 6.
5 to 6.
Good one, Christophe.
He's done this before, hasn't he? That's the seasoned professional, you know.
And I'll be off now. Thanks.
Oh, we got one more question to go. So let's, I think we've got about another 10 minutes or so of this, so I'm going to go into the final question. And again, I think this is all pertinent to what we've been talking about. So, does finance still appeal to younger generations as a career option compared to other avenues? And a little bit it's a development of what we've just been talking about, but it's pretty critical that we still have a conference to go to in 10 years' time filled with you lot and the future generation. So you'll be sitting here doing this panel trying to work out what went wrong or what did we do right. So let's figure that out. So first of all, the show of hands, does finance still have an appeal to younger generations as a career option compared to other avenues? Hands up if you think yes. That's a pretty good show of hands. Right, those who think no. A few over there. About three hands said no. I ought to pick on you and actually find out why you said that. But we don't really have time. Don't worry, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to make, someone's leaving now. He's worried I'm going to ask him to say something. Right. So again, I think we're confident in our future. So in 10 years' time, I'm pretty confident that you lot will be here and there'll be an audience to listen to you. But let's ask that question formally, and I'm going to Christophe, you, the 5, 6, 7 days a week?
So, yep.
I mean, do you have a life, or you just...
I do. I am Gen X, so X-Files, by the way. My wife is a millennial, and my kids are 2 Gen Z boys, so I get a lot of feedback.
How many years have you done now again?
So, I started work 40 years ago, financial services 33 years ago. So,
but 40 years you started.
Yeah,
started.
so I have
you haven't beaten me then.
No education, went straight into work.
Right.
And then financial services, because I got lucky talking to a mad guy at Tradition bond market. So it's been a wonderful ride. And actually, the one thing I know is whenever you talk, and I run MarketAxess, a trading venue across EMEA and APAC, and a lot of what we do is based on data, and we've been discussing data a hell of a lot in this conference. So what I've done is to answer the questions, I've got time myself. I spoke to about 40 people. No, I don't think they were aged more than 26 or 27. 10 of them from my office, had a few chats on this conference, and I got 30 people, going from the people working in the cloakroom today, to the guys in my hotel, to the waiter at the restaurant yesterday. I ask them questions about what we do, and that's my feedback. I don't usually do this, but I'm doing it because, and some of that feedback was pretty raw, but I had to put it into English words. So first of all, the cons. So people see us as inflexible, entrenched behaviors. There's a lot of structure of hierarchy in what we do. Perceptions, interestingly again, are very slow to innovate. And to modernize. A lot of talk, we don't really walk the talk. We are challenged in terms of reputation, and some words came up, the bad bankers, some of the negative coverage in the media as well. Highly competitive, highly pressured, and potentially highly stressful. That came up as well, and I think that it led to a very low score in flexibility, actually. This year is not so flexible. And also the working hours are really long, and the work-life balance is not very good. Again, that's the cons I got from quite a few people. A lot of them told me they were far behind on the D&I, so diversity, equity, and inclusion curve. We're not there yet. And then we are doing something on transition and green, but again, too many challenges, and a lot of us still disagree on the path forward. On the pros, which is really good because that generation is highly educated and highly indebted. And they live in
highly indebted?
Oh, yes.
They need to get paid.
They need to get paid. So on the pros, it's high paying, and it is intellectually really challenging. And I think that was really amazing to hear. That one of them came from that lady in the cloakroom. It was brilliant. She was brilliant. A lot of roles, and again, a lot of them are changing really rapidly. The fact is, a lot of roles are yet to be created, which I love about what we do. We are, again, at the forefront of climate transition, and also social impact. I think the word social impact, responsibility, social responsibility came up a lot. Again, we are driven by tech, so tech-driven, tech-savvy. That's something that came up as well. And some of what we do is on the bleeding edge of technology, crypto, blockchains, and what have you. Very varied, and something that came up as well is entrepreneurs, and that's something that people like. Again, it's a mix of young people, older people, corporate cultures, and I would say they understand there's an ecosystem that supports all of this. That doesn't happen overnight. And again, what I think is a big pro is evolving, again, to be more diverse and equal. And you talked about purpose. I think that's something that came up. Quite a few of them mentioned their intentions to work into. I'm watching it.
Second. Yeah.
You know, in business, and a lot of it was ONGs, government, helping others, helping refugees, asylum seekers, and what have you. But I'll finish on data, real data. CFA report, June 23, finance has replaced healthcare and medicine as the top rank profession in terms of career prospects. 1/4 of graduates actually consider finance to be the top career sector, so that's pretty good news. It was number 5 in 2021. Finance is the most stable career post-pandemic, followed by STEM. And last but not least, finance with tech is one of the top degrees seen as valuable in finding a career. Humanities and arts are at the bottom. So I think there's been a lot of good reasons for us to...
Thank you. So let me now turn to Alex. You get the last word effectively before we've been a bit shortchanged on the time, by the way.
It won't be surprising. I mean, I strongly believe that this industry still appeals to young professionals, but nevertheless, there are many areas where this industry completely misses out on things. One of them is, and we've spoken about it, or we touched upon it, is educating the young generation before they get to the point on which industry they want to go to at their, let's say, at the end of their bachelor's or master's degree. How many professionals from the industry do go out into schools, into universities early and talk about what it is that we do, and especially in capital markets. When I speak to young professionals, they talk about private equity or M&A, but there's so much good that we do in capital markets, but we need to go out and promote this early in the stage. The other point is, once a generation has made it into the industry, and I think the point that Sébastien made really resonates with me, the reason why we join is because of salary. I can kind of identify with that when I joined, but the reason why we stay is not the salary, it's the impact, it's the recognition, it's the purpose. And once a generation has made it into this industry, we need to allow them to have their impact. And one great example that I've heard in my EMBA studies actually from another industry was that a CEO, a seasoned CEO, at some point noted that he was too far away and his senior team was too far away from the young generation. And what he's established was a 1 hour per week sit down with a young generation or someone from his young generation in the firm, and she would sit with him for 1 hour every Friday and simply talk about the worldview from her perspective. And he said it really opened his eyes to what is important for that generation. It was otherwise simply too far away from him. So let the young generation speak and have the impact, and you don't need to change everything that the young generation suggests. I'm actually quite against changing everything that they suggest or that we suggest, but listen to certain things of it.
So let me just finish up. And again, let's hear a final view. In 10 years' time, Sébastien, will you be here? Are you still committed to our industry?
I certainly will, because I see that change and that things are changing. The purpose that was given as, and I know you don't like it, but in the 80s, I will take back something that was said by Michael Douglas in the Wall Street movie. Greed is good. That was what's attracting people in the financial industry and M&A. Not everywhere.
Yeah, that's what Hollywood said.
Yes, that's what Hollywood said, and of course it's a bit exaggerated. But now we wouldn't dare to use that kind of statement anymore, because that will not work. And I think that's made me want to stay here, because things are changing. So yes, I will still be there.
Katja, I'm going to ask you the same thing. Are you motivated to stay and lead our industry?
I'm open to opportunities.
All right, this lady's open to opportunity.
Because honestly,
Hang on, is that
there's so
pay
much
or is
more-
it,
That's
do you
a
want
very
some?
generational
No,
comment.
that's not the pay.
Funny.
I just think there's so much interesting generally in the world, and it makes sense to switch from finance to industry to maybe even academia and come
Okay.
back to finance
Get that.
to enrich this.
Okay.
This doesn't mean you should always follow the same path.
Listen,
till-
now let me ask the older generation, sorry, the seasoned folks here. Are you open to offers?
I am very seasoned, so I'm not far from the end. So I'm unlikely to change industry at the moment.
Okay. Fabianna, what's your status?
I plan to be here.
You plan to be here?
Yeah.
You're going to go on leading the industry, adapting and changing?
I very much, think about it all the time. I want a team of happy people, and if you're not hearing what everyone's saying, then you're going to have people leave and unhappy teams. And so a happy team is productive. So I very much plan to be here and hear what everyone's saying.
Last word.
Mon vieux.
Mon vieux?
Mon vieux. No, I think we've gone from a shareholder mentality to stakeholder mentality.
Yeah.
That's the way I would put what you just said. For me, I'm 58. It's all about giving back and making sure that, again, we make it happen. I mean, that discussions around transition will need a lot of involvement from the younger generation, and you know, for my kids, but for your kids as well. So that's what I intend to do. So I'm here for a long time still.
Well, merci tout le monde. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank
I managed
you.
to hold the time.
Thank you.
And one last word is I would hope that we will redo this next year, and then we'll see if there are different opinions. Thank you very much, and on to the final session.
Thank you.
Thank you.